So in our previous class, we have talked about HTML. What is HTML? Now in today's class, about things. One is JS. We'll first talk about CSS. Okay? Then we'll talk about JS. Let's understand what is. If we use HTML, then we can only create this type of structure of a web page, right? Oh, so uh, we have learned what is HTML. In today's class, we'll learn CSS and JS, right? So this is a web page. If we only use HTML, then we can create a structure of a web page, right? If we want to do some designing, then we have to use CSS, right? So this is the same website. I use CSS, and you can see that using the CSS, we have put some colors here, right? So we have some colors. We align some text here and there, right? Now using the JavaScript, we can make this thing executable. Okay, let's say we have a button here. If someone clicks on this button, then what happened? We can simply decide with JavaScript. So is that clear? No confusion here, right? Okay, so we have W3 school where we can learn about CSS, right? Now let's talk about syntax. Every CSS or every programming language has their own syntax. So syntax is basically a format how we write the code. Okay, now this is what the syntax is. See, here we have p, right? It is a selector in CSS. It point to the HTML element you want to style. In this case, p stands for paragraph, right? Is this clear? Everyone, is this clear? Yeah, so in HTML we have some tags, right? Let's say p tag, h tag, right? So we can use p to write down the paragraph. We can use h tag to write down the heading. If I want to, let's say if I want to change the look of a paragraph tag or of a HTML or a heading tag, then I just have to use the tag name here. So in this case I am using p, so which simply means this, the paragraph tag. Then here I use the color, and this is the property, what color I want to used in my paragraph. And we can align the text left, right, and center. Using the HTML we cannot align the text, okay, but using the CSS we can do. So this is how it looks like. So here we have the HTML things here, right? And then we have the style tag. So this is called style tag. If we want to put CSS in HTML, then we have to use the style tag here. Now I'm going to write down the heading also. So let's make a heading. So this is a heading, right? If I run this, then we have the heading. Let me make it h1. Yeah, so this is the heading, right? Now if I want to color the heading, I simply have to do H here. So H represents our heading. If I do this, then we have this, right? Is that clear? Anyone, any doubt here? Okay. Similarly, we have different selectors here. So we can look different types of selectors. This is for P, right? If we use this, then yeah, it can colorize or it can align the paragraph tag. And we have this selector also, right? We have this selectors also. And we can use this. This means that affect any every HTML element on the page. So abstract in computer language, abstract means everything. Okay, select all. And here we have the H1. Now we have to do the H1 here, right? Like this. We have an H1. If I run this, then we have this thing, right? But we have to use some other things also. Let me use this by then, and if I do this, then this is what happens, right? We have to use this type of selectors here. I'm going to run this. Now this is how it looks like. So we uh, have the style tag here. We put one style for heading and paragraph, right? And this is where it is, right? So we have this. Now I can write down other headings also. Let's make it H3. If I run this, then we have this, right? Now if I want to design the heading 3 also, I just have to add H3 here. And if I click it, okay, I think, oh wait, what is wrong here? We have the style, okay. H3, yeah. So we need to put some space here, got it? And this is how it looks like. So this is how we can use CSS into our HTML. Now you know this is a syntax, right? Here what we have to do, we can use the paragraph if you want to color, heading if you want to color. You have to give color. We can try to submit the answer. Got it? Now this is how we choose the color. So this is how we choose the color. If we want to use, or if we want to uh, add color only in paragraph or only in heading, then we can simply use style equals then color, and we can name the color, right? So this is a different way to add the style, and this is a different way to add the style. Okay, now one concept you have to learn, here is we have inline and We have inline code also. Okay. This is called inline code. It simply means that we have defined our CSS in HTML. We have defined the color in HTML. Okay, and we can define the color in other files also. Okay, is that clear? Okay, same we can do with JavaScript. Now we can use JavaScript make a button clickable or to make anything executable. Now again, for JavaScript you can simply refer the W3 school. So we can simply type JavaScript here and we have this thing. So this is the introduction of JavaScript, and this is the simple code of a JavaScript. So we have the HTML, got it? So this thing is a HTML and we have a button here, right? And we use one JavaScript code, right? And what is the name of that button? Turn on the light, got it? And this is the image that we used here. Now this is a button. If I click this, did you see how it turns on the light? If I click here, it turns off the light, right? So this thing happens using the JavaScript, because here the JavaScript says that get element by ID my image. So this is the image, right? So yeah, it has the image. If we click here, then it actually get this image, right? This is how it works. Is that clear? Any confusion here? This is how JavaScript works. Now we learn what is JavaScript, what is CSS, and what is HTML. So we don't have any doubt right here. Anyone? Okay. So our next thing that we have to discuss is our first vulnerability, that is sensitive data exposure. So sensitive data exposure, the name of our vulnerability. Let's say I have a web page here. I have a web page here, and if I hit enter, so this is a web page, right? We cannot see everything whatever we have in the website like this. I'm going to open the HTML, right? So we have this thing. Now we have different tags. We have the comment tags also. Anyone know what is comment tag? So this is called a comment tag. Whenever developer develop the website, right, they use the comment tag to pass the information to other developers, right? uh Wants to join the class? Everyone is there, right? Okay, no. And see, if I run this, right? So this information won't appear in the website, right? Got it? And we have to look this type of information in sensitive data exposure, right? Got it? There are some cases where sometimes developers are making a website, right? Let's say they are working on a login page and they create a test credential to check how the login is working, and they pass the information here like this. This type of information they passed it here, right? For next developer whoever checking the login page, right? And if we open the website, we don't see this thing. Now this is what we have to look for. In order to do this, what we have to do is, so we are in the browser, left click on it, we have the view page source, right? So just click on it. So if we click view page source, we have this HTML. Now we know that this is the HTML, right? And we know this is what? This is what? This is a CSS. Did you see the style tag here? This is ending style tag, and we have the style tag here. So this is the CSS, and yeah, this is body. Everything comes under the body. We have this link. We have this link here, but we didn't see that link here, right? So we have this link also. If I click on this link, I redirect to this, and here I can easily see that we have the comment here. So it says that href news, right? So here we have page, here we have page, and here we have some paragraph, here we have this type of things, right? So this is what we have to look for. This is the page that we are looking, and we don't know if this page is a vulnerable or not. Is that clear? Any doubt here? Okay, so do you want to ask anything? Anything, anyone, any want to ask? Okay, now let's learn about a backend component. Now we know what is backend, right? Anyone? What is backend? Okay, we have the backend component. Now, so the backend component has this thing, a software, right? Now we have different types of software: web server software, database software, development. So the backend server contains the three other backend components, and these are they. First, a web server. So yeah, so I was saying that a backend server is the hardware, computer, and operating system that host all application files to run the web application, right? So it is basically the real system and software that do all the work to make the web application functional. Now, we have softwares in our backend servers. We have the web server software, database software, and development. So backend server or backend contains three backend. These are the three backend components. So first here we have the, let me copy this. First we have what? First we have the operating system, right? And this is what the backend is. So backend means a hardware and an operating system. And here we have the hardware and this is the operating system. Now backend server contains three things. One is web server, one is application, and one is database. Now if you want to install a web server application, you can go with Apache, Nginx, and IIS. These are the most popular ones. If you want to install web application, right, you can install PHP, C Sharp, or JavaScript, or sorry, not JavaScript, Java. Similarly, for database, we have this thing, MSQL, right, MySQL, and Oracle. Got it? So these things we have now. Web server handles web request coming from the browser. Database stores and manage application data. We have the development frameworks, right? We have the development frameworks. Now development frameworks provides tool and structure for building web application, including libraries and reusable code. If we use development framework, then we don't have to code the thing from scratch. We can simply use the ready-made code that we have in frameworks. So now we have one thing that is called stack. So stack for backend. Now stack refers to a collection of software used together to create a web application. Let's say if I want to use Apache, right? So this is what? This is a web server software. With Apache, I can go with PHP or I can use this programming language to create my backend. And I can use different type of software. So I have to install these three things separately. Now, if I choose stack, I get three things at once, right? So this is what the stack is. Stack contains collection of software used to create a web application, which is recommended, right? So we have the stack here. So these are the most popular stack. Okay, you can get it easily from internet. These are the most commonly found tag. First one is lamp, vamp, wins, vamp, and zamp. Now these are the stack. What it contains? If you use lamp, then it contains Linux as a operating system, Apache as a web server, then MySQL as a database, and PHP as a backend language. So you don't have to install these things separately. If you go WAMP, then you'll get Windows operating system, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. Got it? And for Mac, we have this thing. And for cross-platform, let's say we have XAMPP. In XAMPP, you can use Apache, right? So Apache is available for LAMP. You can use Apache. You can use MySQL, and you can use PHP, Perl, or anything. Is that clear? Any confusion here? Okay, and we know what is hardware, right? So hardware basically contains every files that we need. Now let's talk about software. We know software, right? Let's talk about web server. We know these three things, right? We have covered these three. Let's talk about these three things separately. First one, let's start with a web server. Now I'm going to show you an example. This is a server, right? Inside this server, we have a web server software. Let's say, let's count this as a web server software. Here we have the user. If user asks anything, right, then we have the web server software. It processes the request and sends the required file to the user. So this totally things actually happens with the help of server. Okay, is that clear? Any doubt here? So here, a web server is a software application that runs on the backend server, which handles all of the HTTP traffic from the client browser, route it to the request page, and finally respond to the client's browser, right? So this is an example. So we have a HTTP request. Let's say a user type example.com/page.html their browser. Web server receives this thing and receives the HTTP request asking this page, right? Now, web server route and response. It locates where the page.html is on the system, and if it is a dynamic page, it generates it using the backend code like PHP or Python. Finally, the server package the page as an HTTP response, right? And client receives the response in the form of HTML page, right? Back to the user's browser. So this is what happens. Is that clear? So here we have the workflow. We have web server here, and we have the different clients. So it do the request, and web server make this request and send this to the client. And this is how we have common HTTP response code. I think we have learned the response code in HTTP also, right? So these are the response code just in case if you need. So we have 200. Okay, that means everything is good. The server found and returned the request content. CO1, that means move permanently. The resource has permanently moved to a new location. CO2, that is found. The resource temporarily moved to a different location. Code 00, that is bad request. The server couldn't understand the request because of a bad syntax. Then we have 401, you need to log in to access the page. 403, access to the resource is not allowed. 404, the server couldn't find the request page or resource. 405, the server doesn't allow the requested HTTP method like get or post. And 408, the server didn't receive a request from the client within the expected time. Then we have 500, something went wrong on the server side and couldn't handle the request. Then 502, bad gateway and gateway timeout. So this is the common response code that we receive from server if we do anything wrong. Okay, now the first software or the first web server software is Apache. Now Apache, also known as HTTPD, all over the world 40% of websites are hosted on Apache servers. It is widely used, right? So Apache is commonly used with PHP. Just remember this thing, Apache is commonly used with PHP, but yeah, we can use other language like .NET, Python, Perl, and even shell scripting using a CGI technique or common gateway interface option. So Apache provide CGI, that is common gateway interface. By using CGI, we can use this type of programming languages to design our web application. If we don't use CGI, then by default we have to go with PHP. Is that clear? Okay, now, so Apple, Adobe, and Baidu. These are the most popular website that hosted on Apache web server. Now we have second web server software, that is Nginx. Okay. Now Nginx is the second most common web server on the internet, hosting 30% of the internet websites. Now Nginx is a web server built to manage many web requests simultaneously without using much memory and CPU. So it is a very light software, right? It doesn't require high CPU or memory power, and that is the reason why most developers choose Nginx. And Nginx can handle multiple requests at once. We have this server, right? So let's understand. Let's say that we have the server, and the server is made with Nginx. It can receive server request, and it can process server request at once, right? So you don't have to wait for one request to complete and then other request, right? It can simply handles multiple requests. It can simply process multiple response also. That is why Nginx is most powerful, and 30% of the web application is hosted on Nginx. Now Nginx is used also as a load balancer, right? Now what is load balancer? Can anyone tell me? Anyone? So load balancer simply means that Nginx, similarly, and like we have different types of server, right? And this server has many loads, many requests, right? Then what Nginx do is can simply distribute the loads to other server. So it has this capacity, right? And that is why we use Nginx as a load balancer. It can balance the load of a traffic. So this is the example. First request go to server A, second request go to server B, third go to server C, and so on, right? And this is how it processes the response or request. Server A handle its assigned request, server B handle its assigned request, and so on. Now when it comes to the sending the request, this is what how it happens. After processing the request, each server sends the response back to Nginx server, and Nginx server then forward these response back to the visitors. Did you understand this? Any doubt here? Okay. So this is a load balancer. We have different server here. Nginx simply distribute all the loads to different servers. Google, Facebook, Twitter, Cisco, Intel, Netflix, and Hack the Box. These are the most popular websites used Nginx to maintain or to balance their load in different servers. Got it? Now let's understand what is development frameworks and APIs. So, uh, in addition to web server that hosts the web application in different language, there are many common web development framework that helps to create or develop core web application files and functionality. So here, components and functionality in web development frameworks includes routing, controllers and models, viewers, right? Templates, authentication, form handling. So in order to do this, we can simply go with frameworks. Okay, so we have web development frameworks. If we use web development frameworks, then we have option like this. So routing, so it connects a URL to action in the app, right? So it connects our URL path to any file. Let's say when anyone visit slash home, it shows the content or home page, right? So this URL connects to home and it shows that file. Then we have the controller, handle request and sends response. A login controller check if a user's login is correct or not. Then we have the model viewer, right? So model, what does model do is manage app data and business logic. Let's understand a user model represent user info in a database. Then we have the viewer, create what the user sees, HTML for home page, for any other pages. Then we have the templates, render dynamic content into the HTML, display a list of product from a database. So this thing is called a template, right? And then we have the authorization and authentication. So manage user login, logout and access permission. Only logged in user can access their profile. So this checks are happen with development framework. If we don't use development framework, then we have to code each and everything at our own. And if we code this each and everything, it will take long time, right? And there are chances that we make some mistakes to do this. Okay, now why use backend frameworks? So this is very simple. These core components are included in web development framework to help you build application more effectively and securely. This is why, right? Because we have everything ready made and it is already insecure, so we just have to use that code. So this is what most common frameworks here. For PHP it is Larva, for Node.js it is Express, for Python it is Django, for Ruby it is Rails. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, okay, okay, we'll talk about. And let's understand why we use front-end framework instead of just HTML and CSS. Let's understand. If we use frameworks, then we have ability to reuse the code again and again. It manage the state, so it easily update user information dynamically without reloading entire page. If we use frameworks, then we can use single page application, responsive design, right? And this is why we have to use frameworks. And here we have a reason for using multiple frameworks and web server. We can use multiple frameworks and web server, right? Front end runs with different frameworks and backend run with different framework. So this is why we have to go with different frameworks for front end and for backend. Is that clear? Any doubt here? So shall we keep it here today? Okay, then so let's keep it here today. And yeah, I request you to go through the recordings, right? So yeah, please go through the recordings, huh? And make some notes, okay? Yeah, okay, okay, okay. Okay, students, thank you for joining the class.